I call the 1,555th meeting of the General Student Senate to order. First, I will read the land acknowledgement. The University of Maine student government recognizes that it's located on Marsh Island in the homeland of Penobscot Nation, where issues of water and territorial rights and encroachment upon sacred sites are ongoing. Penobscot homeland is connected to the other Wabanaki tribal nations, the Passamaquoddy, Maliseet, and Micmac, through kinship, alliances, and diplomacy. The University of Maine student government also recognizes that the Penobscot Nation and the other Wabanaki tribal nations are distinct, sovereign, legal, and political entities with their own powers of self-governance and self-determination. Next, the clerk will call the roll.
Ethan Crawford.
Excused.
Cynthia Shelmerdine. Nate Fay.
Here.
Evan Peterson.
Here.
Jordan Thompson.
Here.
Neil Rocky.
Here.
Kate Kempler. Here. Hayden Boswell.
Excused.
Samuel Brown.
Here.
Callie Warren. Here. Elizabeth Oldfield.
Oh, excused.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Joshua Baum.
Here.
Zoe Zankovich. Here. Bouncer Harvey. Here. James Reader Stewart.
Here.
Bo Meacham.
Here.
Meredith Waters. Here. Darren Martone.
Here.
Kyle Ricker.
Here.
Sean Jernigan.
Here.
Tim Berger.
Here.
Alan Howard. Here. Michael Valorge.
Here.
Keegan Tripp.
Here.
Paige Allen. Here. Miles Moore.
Here.
Julian Ober. Here. Hope, Jacob Chaplin.
Here.
Hope Carroll. Here. Kendon Olson.
Here.
Olivia Britton. Here. Riley Mills.
Here.
Kristen Friend.
Here.
Amanda Levesque. Here. Jacob Parkquist.
Here.
Hannah Blanchett. Here. Natalie Pullen. Here. John Guzman.
Excused.
Emery Clifford. Cass Balea. Here. Dylan DeMerchant.
Here.
Danny Tanaka.
Here.
Lori Sadelko. Here.
I am now looking for approval of the 03-19-2024 minutes and this agenda. Vice President-elect Peterson.
I move to approve the 3/19/2024 minutes and this agenda.
Second. If that's pleasure of the Senate, that's adopted. We'll now be, as I said last week, skipping the Robert's Rules tip of the week. And move into general good and welfare. Any non-member being addressed to GSS for not more than 5 minutes. Seeing none and seeing no business and new senators, we'll now move on to club maintenance, starting with nonpartisan political club for preliminary recognition. Do we have a speaker? Perfect, you can take the stand. Floor is yours.
All right, my name is Vianney Gatute. I'm the president of the Nonpartisan Political Club, and we are seeking preliminary recognition at this meeting today. The purpose of this club is to facilitate bipartisan and nonpartisan political discussion on campus. And as such, we are applying for preliminary recognition.
All right.
Are there any questions? From the
Yeah.
members?
Do we have any questions for the speaker? Senator Peterson.
How exactly is your club planning on facilitating those kinds of political discussions, like what kind of events, stuff like that? Like what do you plan on doing?
On a day-to-day or week-to-week basis, we hold weekly meetings. Then anybody is allowed to come. You do not need to endorse or support any political affiliation to come. In that way, we hope to promote more mixing between political groups on campus. In addition, we hope to hold events that not only allow us to bring these bipartisan discussions to a larger audience, but also integrate the existing political clubs. For example, one event that we are hoping to hold is an open forum between the Democrats, the Republicans, perhaps the Libertarians as well, facilitated by our.
Senator Kemper.
Does your club feel prepared to deal with any potential conflicts that arise at these?
I think we do, yes.
Senator Martone.
Where do you regularly meet?
Right now, we meet in the Fogler Library. We hope to reserve a room somewhere on campus in the near future.
Senator Fang.
How many members do you have currently?
We currently have, I would say, 11 or 12 members who regularly attend meetings.
Any further questions for the speaker? Seeing none, what is the committee's recommendation?
400 odds pass.
Vice President-elect Peterson.
I move to accept the committee's recommendation.
Second.
If that's the pleasure of the Senate, that's adopted. We'll now move into a period for discussion. VP Ober.
This club, came to, SOC, a previous time, and we worked with them on doing some more advertising so they could up their club membership. Now they have the required amount of members and submitted the required amount of paperwork and attended the required meetings to become a club.
Any further points for discussion? Seeing none, points for debate. Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? All those abstaining? Seeing a clear majority in the affirmative, that passes. We'll now move on to Black Bears Who Care for preliminary recognition.
Hello, my name is Juliana Gauthier. I am the Vice President of Black Bears Who Care. Unfortunately, our president could not be here today because he is in his lab. Overall, Black Bears Who Care is a community-based community service club that is designated for students to kind of integrate the modalities between pre-health professions and just community-based service clubs and be that kind of middle ground where we all meet. Our overall mission statement is to improve the overall mental and physical well-being of the community around us. And all we're looking for is some preliminary recognition. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Do we have any questions for the speaker? Senator Pack.
How many members you have that regularly attend your meetings?
Currently 10. We are pretty brand new. We just started meeting this semester. We have 16 on the email list, but because of schedule conflicts and things like that, unfortunately, not everybody should attend all the time.
Senator Warren.
Just out of curiosity, how do you plan to work with other community service organizations and foster events and things like that?
Yeah, so currently we have a couple of like different food drives and things like that that are in the works. You may have seen like hygiene drive posters kind of everywhere. And in the future, when we kind of know more of a face to a name for our club, we're hoping to kind of integrate areas from both sides that I just said. We're integrating the pre-health stuff with like Partners for Rural Health and different clubs like that, but also more of our community service clubs and kind of seeing where we can find that middle ground where we all work together and being kind of that liaison right in the middle.
Any further questions for the speaker? Seeing none, what is the committee's recommendation?
400 ought to pass.
Elect Peterson.
I move to accept the committee's recommendation.
Second. If that's budget, that's adopted. We will now move into a period for discussion. Seeing none, a period for debate. Vice President Ober.
They filled out all required forms. This club is distinct from other clubs, as they said, they fall kind of right in the middle of between like our health professions clubs and our service orgs. And they are specifically in fostering the mental and physical health here on campus and in our little community that we have here in Maine. And I absolutely think that they should pass preliminary recognition.
Senator Stewart.
I really love the name of your club. It's very catchy.
Any further points for debate? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? All those abstaining? Seeing a clear majority in the affirmative, that passes. For our clubs who just presented, feel free to leave or stay. That is up to you. Next, we have the Franco-American Resource Opportunity Group presenting on their trip to Montreal. Do we have a speaker at this time? Do we? Any speaker? Seeing none. All right. So we'll now move on to our guest speaker for the night, William Flagg, University of Maine Police Chief.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me here tonight. This is quite a group. This is fun to watch and to see. Kudos to you guys. I want to introduce myself. I know I've only got 15 minutes here with you tonight. And, you know, somebody feel free to elbow me if I get carried away. Sometimes I'm distracted time. Don't know when to close my mouth, but I really appreciate you guys having me. Again, my name is William Flagg. I'm the chief of police. I took over about a year and a half ago after a 35-year career in law enforcement in this area. A good portion of my career was a criminal investigator. But I've been involved in a number of different things throughout my career. I was also an instructor in 2 small colleges in the area for law enforcement. So I had the opportunity to come here to UMaine, and I'm really enjoying my time here. I want to take an opportunity to kind of tell you where we're headed as a police department. I want to open the invitation to you to start a relationship with us where we can communicate and be part of the team. Some of you may have seen recently a new police cruiser here on campus with a blue cruiser with a bear on it, and it kind of stands out. And it's become a topic of conversation, and the feedback has been pretty good. People like it. One of my officers, which some of you I believe have already talked to, and are going to be talking with in the near future, Jamie Dover. He said it very well, and I'm trying to give an exact quote, but it might be paraphrasing a little bit. But you know, he said it's a difference. The image that we're trying to get to is a difference between being a police officer on campus and being a member of the campus community, and that's where we want to be. We want to be part of this team. I want to assure you that in today's world and the problems that are occurring all over our country and all over the world, that our mission here is very simple, but powerful at the same time. We are here to make this campus safe for every student and staff member. Okay? Every group, every student, that's our mission, is to help create a safe place for you to get an education and to grow as a human being. Now, we see all over the news, and recently with the tragedies in Lewiston, we've seen it come close to us. And as we approach the 25th anniversary of Columbine, I want to kind of put some people's mind at ease to let you guys know that we are training on a regular basis to greatly improve and have greatly improved our response capability to such an event. Because I know this is something that goes on in people's minds. I talk to people all the time, but that's the first thing that they see it on the news. It's now happening here in the state of Maine. And people have asked me, Chief, are we ready? And I tell them that as a law enforcement officer, I have been training for these events since Columbine. With me today is Lieutenant Bill Mitchell. Lieutenant, stand up and wave so they see you. Okay. Now I'm going to talk about Lieutenant Mitchell here and how this all comes together. That's what we brought. That's why I brought you. Lieutenant Mitchell is retiring in July after 40 years as a police officer on this campus. It will be his 40th commencement that he will work as a police officer here. He has the institutional knowledge of the University of Maine that no other police officer in the state of Maine has. And he's going to share that with our newer officers so they can carry on that process. There are some dedicated people in this department. We now have 3 nationally certified active shooter response instructors on staff. Our police officers are required, mandated, to take active shooter training at least twice a year and as much as we can train. We are continually working and practicing for an event that we pray never comes. It's like an insurance policy, and I tell this to my officers. It's like an insurance policy. We hope we never use it. We buy a new car, we get insurance on our car, we don't go out and wreck our car to see if the insurance works, right? Training and preparation is an insurance policy. Because if the day comes, we want to be ready. So I assure you, we are taking your safety on this campus as our top priority. And we have some talented police officers that want to work with you. Yes, they're there to enforce the laws and the regulation, but they want to see you succeed. Every one of us want to see you succeed. Campus law enforcement are specialists in the law enforcement field. Just like other units in law enforcement have their specialty, we have our specialty in this campus. So please know tonight and share with your friends and your classmates, don't be afraid of us. Don't be afraid to talk to us. We are 24/7, 365. We do not close. There is always somebody on duty. There is always somebody, the rank of lieutenant or higher, on call. So after Lieutenant Mitchell goes home tonight, there's somebody that's going to answer the phone if it's something that needs a command level decision. We are continuously watching what goes on around the country, what goes on in our state. We have an emergency operations center that is run out of the police department, of which I'm the commander of. It's a multidisciplinary team. People within the university system that stands ready to respond to and manage any major incident. We don't advertise this stuff and stuff we do, but we're doing it. You guys are in classes and you guys are doing what it is you do. We're doing what we do quietly and efficiently to train to better serve you and the community that is the University of Maine. I have a personal mission statement to serve the students and staff of the University of Maine with pride, professionalism, fairness, and respect. I have spent 35 years of my career living by that statement, and I expect nothing less from my officers. I expect them to do the same thing. And if they don't, I want to know about it. We're all you. We put our pants on one leg at a time like everybody else. We make mistakes. But we have some responsible, caring police officers from all different parts of the world that stand ready to be there for you and to support you and to protect you. And that's my mission going forward. And I hope I can be your police chief here for the next 10 years before I decide to retire. And that mission will not change. We will be here under my command with the police department. We will be here to protect you and to help you if you need it. If you find yourself in a situation or your friends find yourself in a situation you're uncomfortable with, something's not right, you need us, the lights are always on at public safety. And we will help. That's my promise to you. Okay. Lieutenant, how did I do? Did I stay under the 15-minute? You're doing pretty well. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah. Do we have any questions for Chief VP Chaplain?
Are there any kind of like initiatives or projects that you'd want to work with students on? And like, I know like last year we worked together, I think actually with you, Lieutenant, on a PSA for like, don't text and cross the street. Are there any kind of like fun projects or initiatives that you guys are interested in doing? Like
I'm glad you asked that question. So Jamie Dover, who I talked to you about a few minutes ago, Jamie Dover, for those of you that don't know, is a nationally recognized highest level that can be school resource officer. He has 22 years experience. He spent most of that career in the schools at the high school level in the state of Kansas, in a big school, and has an impressive resume. Those same skills that he has makes him a logical choice to be that liaison to these type of projects. He's already got the foundation. I'm about building foundations. Officer Dover is building that foundation now to reach out to you and start talking, to get your input. Much like I manage my department, I bring my people to the table because I want to hear from them. I want to hear their opinions. They're important to me. Well, we're going to take that one step further and we're going to bring that into the community. And our officers want to hear from you. We want to know what concerns you. What are the things that you're concerned about or that you think need to change? We want to hear that and see and work together. So you're going to be hearing from Officer Dover. The other thing that I am working towards, and we all know, and you guys are in this business here learning all about it, budgets are tight, right? But my goal is to have a community liaison officer dedicated full-time in a partnership with Student Life to work with you, the students, to build these programs together. So we're getting it. The year and a half that I've been here so far, there has been a rebuilding phase. COVID did a lot of damage all the way around. We are not exempt from that. Staffing was horrible. When I started a year and a half ago, we were 6 positions down. I'm happy to say now we are full staff with some very qualified people and people that through my relationships in this profession over the last 3.5 decades, I was able to take my team, Lieutenant Mitchell, Lieutenant Santiago, Captain Swan. We were able to collectively grab people from the law enforcement community that saw what was happening here and said, I think I want to go to UMaine. And they're very happy that they did. And they bring years of experience and just good. And that one thing that's very important to me when I hire someone, good communicators, people who can have those conversations, sometimes those hard conversations, and be able to communicate with you and listen and understand. We've been very successful at that, and I'm very happy to say that. So I'm really excited about the potential we all have together going forward. I think that we can really build some good relationships, and you know, we get it, and we're always a good conversation. So don't ever hesitate. Reach out to us. Okay. Did that answer your question?
Absolutely, thank you.
Senator Ritter.
If this isn't a very applicable question, I apologize, but I was wondering if there's anything you do here at the University of Maine that might differ from other schools of similar sizes like UNH or like just different kind of large college campuses that might have their own police department.
Well, funny to say UNH, my daughter graduated from there. So her and I, you can imagine the fun we have going back and forth. I tell her I have to hide the UNH dad coffee cup that I got. But I don't. No, it's good one. I think the differences lie with not so much like a UNH, because I think there's a lot of similarities in some way. But I think your big city schools. I think there's a more of a. It's just a different environment, and I think that we bring what Maine has to offer too. I think there's something to be said that we are the University of Maine. You know, when it comes to safe places to live and safe places to learn, safe places to work. You know, Maine has its problems, don't get me wrong, I've been on the front row to a lot of those in my career. Boy, I gotta tell you, we're one of the safest places to be. And I think that environment, combined with what we're trying to do here, makes us unique in this region. I'd put the University of Maine up against any school around, including UMSG.
We'll do one more question, Representative Levesque.
So first off, congratulations. So not only do I serve a purpose as a representative for here, but I'm also in res life. So this question is going to be a little mixed, but what are you doing to work with dealing with mental health situations? Because I know that is commonly a big role that you will take.
Wonderful question.
And I just want to see what kind of training is being undergone, what sort of changes are being made, things like that.
Yes, excellent question, Drew. Great way to end this. So we recognize as a police agency that we need to improve. Our profession is constantly evolving and we never stop learning. And I tell police officers, the day you stop learning is the day to get done. Because this job isn't for you any longer. We always continue to learn. So one of the things that we're working on that I think you'll be pleased with is that we are currently looking for funding through grant sources to actually hire enough counselors to have a counselor on duty to respond with the police department. So when a call for service comes in for somebody in mental health crisis, the goal is for the police officers to pick somebody up at the counseling center and they go with us to the call. So shortly after I started, you know, we were hearing these programs where Bangor does it, the sheriff's office does it, around the country, they're doing it where counselors are actually on duty working with the police department. So why not take that and adjust that a little bit? We are in a 660-acre area. If we patrolled an area that was 15 miles from one end to the other, that wouldn't work. But if somebody's on duty at the counseling center and available, our dispatcher can call them and say, we got a call. And by the time they hang up the phone and walk out the door, our cruiser is sitting there picking them up. And they go with the officer to the call. So we can introduce counseling services immediately. So that is a big step for us. We've got an agreement in place and we're looking for funding to be able to do that. We may start in a pilot program where we start on the day shift. And then what we want to do is be able to have enough so at least 16 to 20 hours a day, there's somebody physically working, ready to respond. So that's a big step, never been done in this university before. That is a project we are actively working on to improve our ability to respond to those situations.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for coming.
Keep up the great work. You guys are doing an awesome job.
You guys are also, oh, never mind, right, they're already on. We will now move on to executive reports, starting with the president.
Good evening, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Last Thursday was the deadline for hiring applications, all vice president positions, director of technology, FEP, director of communications, apologies, and FEPC, and I believe that's it. So we've received, out of 7 positions, we've received 36 applications, which I think is the most per position since I've been here, which is awesome. I also, as I mentioned in past reports, revised the hiring questions and updated them to be specific to each position. basically providing a menu of questions that each hiring committee can choose from when they're interviewing a particular applicant. And hopefully these questions, after I solicit some feedback after the hiring process is done, can be given to the organization for probably the next 10 years unless a particular position were to change. So that's another really awesome improvement that we're leaving an organization with this year. Interviews are happening this week. They've already started and should be wrapping up by next Tuesday, I believe, if all goes to plan. Second thing in my report is the bus trip that I came to you requesting funding for last week. It went really, really well. So the amendment that was added on the main motion financial request was to fund 1 or 2 buses at least 75% full. And because of the logistics of having to pay for the bus ahead of time, but also having to know how many students we had going on the bus, we got 1 bus rather than 2. So I wanted to report how much money we spent on that. As you can imagine, half of the request for 2 buses was $5,075 for 1 bus to send 55 undergrads to the Hockey East semifinal in Boston. Unfortunately, the team lost, but that's out of student government's control. But it was a great trip. Every single seat on the way down was completely full. We had 0 students on the wait list with every seat full. I think that's, I don't know, just a testament. I think it worked out perfectly. I would outline the process of kind of how it all came together, but it would take a while, so I'm not going to mention that in my report, but it worked out really well. I just kind of wanted to use this as a reminder to say that, like, when things come up last minute, I think the student government can rise to the challenge and really accomplish those. This was kind of a positive instance of that. One negative instance of that we dealt with last semester was holding a vigil for the Lewiston shootings. That wasn't a happy occasion by any means, but I think it was really necessary that student government did for the community. And just kind of want to remind you all of that we can do positive things for the community last minute when we need to. And I appreciate the Senate approving the funding and the discussion that we had last week to make this happen, because I think we left 55 students very happy with free transportation down to Maine. Quick thank yous to give out for people that made that happen. Obviously, thank you to the Senate, I already mentioned that. But thank you to Northeast Charter and Torco for working with us and getting us the bus. We had some great bus drivers who turned on some very nice purple lights on the way back from the game for us. We appreciate that. Thank you to Pam for all her help with funding. Thank you to Sean for creating a waiver last minute, a student government travel waiver, amending that custom for the trip. Thank you to Lori for helping out with all the logistics, publicizing it and dealing with the parking tickets that we got after we violated the winter parking ban. But we're told that we were okay. Anyway, we're dealing with that. That's probably. And thank you to Colleen for helping with all of the campus groups logistics, basically making sure that every registration question I had with campus groups was answered, sometimes very last minute. So it all went very well. Last part of my report is yesterday, Vice President Tripp and Representative Britton and I met with members of UMaine administration and leaders in our graduate student government for part of our monthly meetings with administration. Vice President Tripp really advocated that those meetings be back in person, which I thought was a great idea. We were able to hand them a paper agenda of things we wanted to talk about and really kind of dive deep on some topics. We gave them some positive updates of things happening in student government, but we were also able to discuss cross-charging across the university. We've heard that the cost for the CCA rental for one night is going up from $5,500, which it has been, to $6,800. That was something I addressed with them about how the costs of student clubs are really increasing, and all of this cross-charging happening around the university for different little fees and services is just getting absolutely ridiculous, and it's negatively impacting the student experience. We talked about that and specifically how it relates to athletics. And we also talked about the infrastructure and technology fee, which I'll let Representative Britton talk a little bit more about later. But overall, the meeting went very well, continuing to establish good relationships with student government. That's the end of my report.
We'll now move on to my report. I am currently coordinating a time for the club storage meeting. As we all know, hiring is this week, which made kind of planning anything a nightmare, and it's seeming like we're gonna have to push it into early next week. But we are going to hit the ground running as soon as we get this meeting, I promise. Things are just moving slow, you know how it is. Next, myself and President Dolores will be working on the what we hope will become an annual UMSG spring survey. This is a survey that President Dolores started last year, which asks a lot of like kind of bigger questions about all of the divisions and whatnot to get a feel of what the student body needs, what they want, how they feel about student government, how they feel we should be doing and whatnot. So we'll be developing that again. Our goal is to keep a lot of the same questions so that we have like at least a good set of continuity questions that we ask every year, so that there's good data across. But I'm also going to be looking into different questions, more kind of specific to next year. And all of that, I will be including the Senate in as much as I can as we kind of move forward with that in terms of I'd like to have a good meeting where we all sit down and talk about what questions we'd like to, what information we want to get from the student body. Because this is a pretty good way, in a direct way, to get a feel for kind of what they believe our priorities should be as we represent them. Next, I'm also laying the groundwork for an initiative that I've been meaning to begin for a long time. That is a town hall series with the administration. The guest speaker series this year was kind of like my dry run of this, but think of that, but an hour long, and it's specific issues, and then we can have a real conversation during them. I think that this is a great way to continue our kind of work on improving the relationship between students and the administration, and also a great way for us to improve the relationship beyond just student government and the admin. I think that it'll do both the administration and the students some good to get in front of each other and have conversations about what students want to have conversations on, and it's not always be filtered through our body. And I'm starting that now for next year. Because the scheduling with the cabinet is a nightmare, and we got to start as things start to kind of fall in place. So look forward to that. We will now move on to the Vice President for Financial Affairs.
Hi, everyone. I've been very busy with the annual budget this week and last week. The budget will become public to the Senate only online, or you can come visit the Senate and look at it. The goal is for tomorrow at 9 AM, but we're still having a little bit of trouble getting the projected enrollment figures, so it'll be likely tomorrow afternoon. There's only 4 more opportunities for funding after tonight, which is kind of crazy to say. So please do keep that in mind, especially if your student organization or someone you know is planning on requesting money. So starting projected unallocated, we have $78,863.84. 2 returns to unallocated, it's a little bit misprinted. So 1 from Blackbear Beekeeping, the amount of $46.10, and 1 from Outing Club, in the amount of $73.80. We did receive our last activity fee check for the spring in the amount of $68,772.28. We had a couple people not show up to EBC last night, but they've all reached out to me and they're planning on coming next week. And that was the Math Club and Men's Rugby, and then the American Institute of Chemical Engineers couldn't make Senate this week, so they're coming this week. Consent agenda stuff, Flying Club, EBC approved $809 to purchase a flight simulator that can be used in the esports arena. And then 2 things from Student Leadership Division, 1 for the Senate retreat, and then 1 for a collaborative finals week event as well. And then you'll be hearing from President Dolores later about the esports arena and a report.
We'll move on to the Vice President for Student Organizations.
Hello, everyone. So this week I'm doing a lot of work with DOT Mills. I have 3 main tasks that we are working on. I am updating the student organization page as well as reorganizing it, because I know there's been some issues. I want basically it to read fully active, like finally recognized clubs that are eligible for funding, and then I want to have like a spot for the clubs that we've given preliminary recognition to, but that are not eligible for funding, are going through the process. Add more of like an advertising piece, just because I think, they want to really get their names out there. I think we can do that, but have them in like a separate section, and then obviously our active clubs, which we need to go through and clean up, because there's a lot of weird duplications and things like that. I'm also working on, my main project from last semester was to have a online database of all of our clubs that, for the past like 20 years, active, inactive, all of that fun jazz. And I've been doing it on sheets, but I've been working with UT Mills to have a more interactive format so that it's easier to use, and it's easier to pass down, rather than future DPSRs just having to kind of like duplicate it and change it for their year. And then I'm working on an update form with DOT Mills. Really, I just came up with a lot of projects for DOT Mills to do, and then I will give them the information for. Sorry about that, kidding. But the update form is that I think the update form should auto-populate with its, like, with what we already have, the information we already have. Your tax ID is not typically changing year to year. So like making clubs, I get a lot of emails at the beginning of the year asking for their tax ID club information, even though I already have it, and then I just give it back to them and they just report the same tax ID number. So kind of working on that to like auto-populate the stuff that they already have, so that update forms are smoother and easier for everyone. Again, that's kind of DOT Mills project, but I'm making them do it. That sounds bad, but also this week in SOC, we're only doing reactivations because I don't want anybody to have to show up to Senate for the annual budget. I don't know how it's been running in years past, but that's how I'm doing it. I will also be meeting with the Center for Student Involvement for campus groups trainings, and to see about a future partnership there for our student clubs and like recognition processes. And then of course the infamous club storage meeting, which will be happening at some point. I am messing that up this Friday because I have been very busy. I have a bunch of meetings. The History Club has tabled their recognition. So we will not be hearing from them this week, but they will be moving that once they work something comes out. And report.
Perfect. We'll now go to the Vice President for Student Entertainment.
Hello. Unfortunately, we had to cancel the film competition, because the due date for the films was last Thursday, and sadly, only one person sent one in. But on a happy note, April 5th, Joe Gatto, the CCA, so far we've given out 400 tickets. We'll be tabling this Thursday, 10 to 12 in Union, and then next Tuesday and Thursday, 10 to 12. Also, posters very soon are going to be distributed into all of the dorms. And there's a QR code on them. If you scan it, fill it out, you'll have your ticket. So you don't actually have to come to the tabling if you don't want to, but I'll be there. So, also confirmed, we're doing 5 food trucks on Monday service, and everything's free.
Moving on to the Vice President for Student Leadership.
Hey guys, quite busy this week with interviews for the next BPSL, so I might not be in the office during my office hours, but of course, feel free to reach out to me over email if you need anything. The Student Speaker Showcase, so the event went really well last week. The speakers seemed really excited about it, and the audience was really engaging. Definitely got a lot of good feedback on how to improve that for the future, so I'm going to be working with my committee tomorrow on a little bit of a write-up for the next BPSL and ways it can be improved. Senator Ricker and I met last Friday and started building out the syllabus bank and playing around with the logistics of it. We're going to be having a very similar meeting on this Friday. Haven't picked a time yet, so if anyone wants to get involved with that project, let me know. We're going to be building it, thinking about how it will like logistically work, like reaching out to admin assistants, that kind of process, like updating it every semester, and kind of planning our next steps. And just so you guys know, the next steps is likely going to be meeting with a faculty senate committee and getting their feedback on how it's actually been built out. The UMSG Leadership Retreat is happening next Friday, which you should all know, from 3 p.m. to 5:15 here in the Union. And then from 6 to 7, we're going to be going to the escape rooms in Bangor. So from 3 p.m. to 4:30, and I'm gonna be sending this to an email to you guys too, just in case. From 3 p.m. to 4:30, the discussion with the career coach and then the alumni panel that President Delorge has coordinated. That will be happening up in the Career Center. That's on the 3rd floor of the Union, if you guys haven't been there before. And then the rest of it, the workshop that we're gonna be doing will be down in the Wade Center. And then we'll all be carpooling to the Bangor escape rooms together and ending by 7 p.m. so we can all make it to the lovely Joe Gatto show. SLC will be meeting tomorrow to discuss how the showcase can be improved in the future, discussing the final details for the leadership retreat, and talking a little bit about promoting some upcoming collaborations between us and some other groups on campus. I will be working with DOT Mills on a student leadership division kind of webpage on the website. Sean Omar gave us that idea the other day, and it's something that never even crossed my mind, so I definitely think that's a great idea to take on. And then one last thing, there are accepted students days happening on the Saturdays over the next few weeks. And we are signed up to have a table there to engage with accepted students. It's from 8:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. on upcoming Saturdays. If you're interested in volunteering at any of that, please let me know. I can definitely use the help, and I will share the schedule with you guys. Thank you.
Perfect. We'll now move on to the advisor to student government.
Hello all, I do have a few things tonight. This Thursday, you probably all know that Maine hockey is going to be playing Cornell in Springfield, yes, Massachusetts, at 5:30 p.m. And so there's going to be a watch party on the big screen in the North Pod here for that game. And then after we win that game on Saturday, there's going to be another watch party in the North Pod of the Union, and some sort of food will be provided. I don't even. Probably pizza, but I'm not sure at this point. They're still working on all those details, but you need a place to watch Thursday afternoon. That's going to be on a big screen with a bunch of people, so please join us. On Maine Day of Service, I'd like to invite all of the execs of University of Maine Student Government to join me to be pied in the face on the mall sometime between the hours of 2 and 4 p.m. So I have accepted the challenge to be pied in the face. It goes to charity, and I would like to invite all of the execs to do so as well.
Point of privilege is the new executives, right?
Sorry?
The new execs.
The new execs, not the current.
Not the,
Well, I think it would be nice to have outgoing and incoming. That would be very nice. So just a thought. I'll be following up with you individually. And if all of you have certain execs that you would like to pie in the face, let me know and I'll work hard. So anyway, on a more serious note, a couple of things I just wanted to mention because it's that time of year again. We have had some protests and things like that lately, and as we gear up for election season, there's a lot of questions about what free speech is. And we have a really well laid out, very crystal clear policy on what free speech is and how that's enacted on campus and most campuses and public universities in the country. So if anyone has any questions about that, I would encourage you to revisit our policy. And maybe at some point, given that we're gonna continually have a contentious political environment in the future, maybe we could think about a political or somebody talking to us about free speech and how that's enacted on campuses. Just a thought. Also, just two more things, I promise. One thing is, it is also that time of year. Somebody asked Chief Flagg about mental health and some of how that's dealt with in terms of police and things like that. And as the person who gets a lot of those calls in the middle of the night from students who are in distress, I want to remind you all that, and to ask you to remind your friends and your residents and whatever it is that you have, that we need to take care of one another. Stress is getting higher and higher as the semester comes to the end. People are graduating and don't know what they're doing with their lives and all of those fun things. And so it's really important for you to be there for your friends and for the people on this campus as our community. And if you don't know how to help someone, come see me or anyone in the dean's office and we'll help you to help them. And then the very last thing is, you probably all know this by now, but I feel like we need a public shout out to our valedictorian for the class of 2024, Michael Delorge.
Yay, all right, okay. Are there any questions for the execs? VP like Peterson?
Question for Mr. Smore. What was the date of the event specifically?
April. I get that. 24th of April. 24th.
And part two, that question is that how elected.
Yeah. You're in.
Senator Martel?
This is a question for VP Moore. Was one of the food trucks that was on the survey selected? And if it was, which one was it, please?
Probably, no one signed a contract yet, though, that's why I just said 5 and didn't tell you who.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Cool. Any other questions? Senator Kemper?
Question directed at Advisor Snell as well. I'd love to actually like read the free speech policy that posted somewhere.
I'll send it to you. Okay, please. Actually, why don't I send it to Jeff and ask him to send it to all of you? Yeah.
Perfect.
Yep.
Sounds good. All right, Representative Bland?
Question directed at VP Ober, but technically, actually DOT mills. When you say like, auto-populate the, like, tax information, do you mean like internally and not on the actual form? Because I feel like that would be a security issue maybe.
Correct. It's internally repopulating so that we don't have to you don't have to input all of the details that I already have that are crossing over from year to year to year to year to year. But correct, it's not gonna start like publicizing your tax information on the website. That would be an issue. Correct.
Representative DeMartini?
Yeah, this is our board president's award. You mentioned the CCA costs are possibly going up or they are going up from 5,500 to 6,800.
Do you respond to that?
I haven't received communication from the CCA that they were going.
Yeah, okay, so that's true. We also brought it up to administration. They're looking into it too. I don't know, maybe they can do something about it to reverse it, but yeah, that's what Vice President Allen.
Any other questions for the execs? One more, let's go into twice. Moving on to periodic reports, starting with the faculty tenant student representative.
Hello, everyone. So I did remember that the reason that I didn't bring my report for last week is that there's literally nothing relevant from the Senate meeting to report to you guys. Because there's a lot of internal stuff going on, communications between faculty and the administration that got heated, but they were all related to the and
Moving on to the University of Maine Board of Trustees student representative.
I went to the FFT meeting or watched the FFT meeting from last week, which was the meeting where they propose every campus's budget as well as the system budgets. So if you're interested in like other campuses' specific budgets, that's all in my notes that are uploaded. But some things that I thought you probably would care about. The governor appropriated an additional like $10 million-ish to the system for fiscal year 25. For the first time since 2014, the campus budgets are balanced without using budget stabilization funds. Enrollment is decreasing even more on our campus than they predicted it would be decreasing. Tuition increases, which Paige mentioned last week. For business and engineering, it's $48 per credit hour, and for nursing, it's $50 per credit hour. And then President Delors mentioned the technology fee increase, that's gonna be $12 per credit hour for next year, which their estimate for two 15 credit hour semesters is $360. And that in the senior administration meetings, we've talked about where exactly that's going, and it's going to the HVAC system this year, but in future years, it's going to other deferred maintenance projects. So that number is staying there at the additional $360-ish. And then that was all from that meeting. There's a board meeting in 2 weeks in Augusta. There's public comment there, or if you have things you want me to bring forward, you can email me or come to my office hours. That's all. And
Moving on to the chair of the Fair Election Practices Commission. As far as food, I have like $675 and there will be about 50 people there max, which is about $13.50 per person, which means I'll probably just get a bunch of platters of like fancier food and not like a bunch of meals because those are advertised catering wise is like more than $20 per person. That doesn't matter. Anyways, what else did I have for tonight? Oh yeah, I finished the draft of the resolution. I'll be sending it to President-elect Peterson. I don't know if they. And then I found like all the addresses of all the invites of all the people and I sent them to Hope and then Hope and I are gonna work based on materials from 2018 to invite people to the inauguration. And that is all in the report. Moving on to the student legal representative.
What's up, guys? Sean's been doing a lot of event things, like event insurance for the drag show or the community in St. Paul, Centralia. He's also been working on hiring and interviews and whatnot. And also working on a resolution, which we will be discussing later.
Moving on to the representative to the Graduate Student Senate.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, it's been a long day ago. So I have a shorter report today. The executive committee for the Graduate Student Senate is meeting this Wednesday. As it's held every other week, but I'm not gonna be there because I have class at the exact time, so I'm gonna meet with Harrison afterwards to review what happens and update you next week. And I hope you guys all saw and heard the Graduate Student Workers Union march earlier today. It'll be continuing over the next couple of days, so I'd recommend checking their Instagram for any targeting updates, maybe showing up to some of the sit-ins and support. And again, I have dropped info about those in the chat that I can resend them. So that's kind of the report.
Orno Town Council Liaison, no report. Old Town City Council Liaison, no report. All right. Representative of Military and Veteran Student Affairs.
No report.
Right. Director of Communication.
Hi everyone, this week I will just be doing some hiring committees and then working with FEPC Chair Olson on designing and putting together the invitations for the inauguration and the report.
Director of Technology.
Well, I feel like y'all have already heard my week. So it's basically that as well as hiring. So yeah, end of report.
University of Maine Security Representative.
It's okay.
And Center for the Undergraduate Research Liaison.
Hello, everyone. I had a meeting on Monday with all of the crew side of the symposium. And I have the final numbers for the abstracts that were submitted this year. It's 352. Based on last year's numbers for undergraduate and graduate participants, it was about 50-50. And so we can expect to have over 150 undergraduate students there and like who submitted their own research targets. And I'm still looking for people to volunteer. I'll be posting the link, which I forgot to do last week. It's actually in the chat this week. And yeah, excellent. All right. Do we have any questions for our speaker? Representative, Senator Harvey.
This is for Representative Green. Do you know the exact number of students that are enrolled in the school that we're using?
It's not unenrollment, it's lower like number of freshmen enrolling next year, but I don't know the exact number, and I think that Paige is also waiting on that number, but I do know it's half a percentage point lower than what the predicted decrease was. That's not super helpful, but.
No, Representative DeMarchi.
This is directed toward Representative Britton. Is this related to the slow pace of the FAFSA being released to students? Is that why the numbers are being sort of like lower than anticipated, or at least like at face value as of right now? Or are those like confirmed sort of numbers?
I think that those numbers are probably accurate. I don't know if they're related to FAFSA. I do know that among the other campuses, some of them have increased enrollment and some of them have decreased enrollment, and I assume that they're all using the same FAFSA process. So, as I'm not super helpful, but probably not.
Also for Representative Britton, sorry. At the F15, Was it more like discussion and presentation, or was there like any sort of vote taken on the budget at all?
The way it works is they send the proposed budgets, like they get approved to go to the board meetings. So the discussion all happens in their executive sessions, so I don't see it.
Thank you.
Any further questions for these speakers? Seeing none, we will now move on to reports of standing committees, starting with marketing and public relations.
On their report.
All right, membership.
Good evening, everyone. Pam and I will get good food for the budget meeting. If you have a request for snack, please email me and I will check if Sam's Club has it. End of report.
Policy and procedure.
Hey everyone, last week, policy and procedure met and passed a resolution brought forward by President Lorge involving ensuring equity and student equal representation. I'm sure President Lorge will elaborate on that later. We also discussed the upcoming executive evaluations, which will be held during executive session on April 9th. I'm currently working on like the formatting of the Google form it'll be distributed with. That was last year, so I'm gonna finish touching it up and making it look pretty. And pretty much anybody who wants to get in touch with me about what they think questions should be, what the criteria, stuff like that. Any room for discussion on what you think should be relevant to the executive evals, please feel free to get in touch with me and the policy and procedure committee. That's kind of what I've assigned all of the people on the committee to do, is to come up with questions or ideas for it, which we'll discuss this coming Friday. And then we'll also discuss the FEPC chair's amendment to his timetable. And that's the only business that I'm aware of. If anybody would like to introduce them, now would be a good time since the year is coming to a close, but yeah.
Moving on to political activism. You have that perfect.
No report.
Excellent. Moving on to services.
After a week of trying to reach out, having difficulties, we finally got in contact with Concord Coach Lines, and we're gonna be meeting with them on Thursday to discuss the potential of the bus ticket discount and talk about, and services will be debriefing that, talking about next plan, what next steps are in the report.
Are there any questions for those speakers? Seeing none, we'll move on to reports of special committees, starting with the Academic Affairs Special Committee.
I'm Laura. Okay, hi guys. So I had my big giant associate provost meeting last Wednesday. That's the meeting that I get to bring up all the issues with. You guys gave me great issues to bring up, so it's very long, but I love it. The NAP tutoring payment issue is being investigated. The online major minor change is being brought up to the appropriate audiences. That was a suggestion that you should be able to change your major and minor online without having to go in person to offices to do it, which I love that suggestion. I also applied that suggestion to some other forms that are regraded to stuff, so like withdrawal forms as well. If you withdraw from a class, that should also be able to be done online. We talked a little bit more about the possibility of office hours, and then I brought up some concerns about international student transfer credits. I got some updates on Black Bear alerts. Some of the statistics from last semester are starting to come in. 70% go to at-risk students. So those are students in categories that I can't name all four off the top of my head, but it's Pell Grant, first generation, minority, anything that puts you at an at-risk for withdrawing as a student. 70% of the Black Bear alerts go to at-risk students. Last semester had the highest first-year GPA in a very long time. I do not remember the time frame, and I did not write it down. But good news. And then NAP tutoring, they went from 50 tutors last semester to 200 tutors this semester, which is a huge jump. The task force was that afternoon on that Wednesday, so the Student Success Hub Task Force. I spoke up for students, because I was the student there. If you guys want minutes from that, you can ask me for them. I did not take the minutes, so warning. Okay. In public and in private, I've been advocating on the new online class fee. So basically part of the budget proposal is that online classes will now have a fee associated for them, a higher fee. And I brought up the fact that students don't get to choose whether they take classes online or in person anymore because too many of the required classes for our majors are taught only online.
I brought that up in private and then they didn't respond to my email, so I brought it up in public at the budget hearing. Their fault for not responding to my email. And that's it. End of report.
Right? Sorry. Moving on to the Student Mental Health Committee.
Hi, everyone. First off, I would like to remind the Senate that the Mental Health Committee will be meeting on Fridays from 2 to 3 p.m. in the Mine Spa, which is located downstairs in Memorial Union. If anyone is interested in participating in this committee but is unable to attend at the current planned time, please feel free to contact me in person or via email at emory.maine.edu. And if there are enough folks who would prefer an alternative time, I can release a when to meet form to find a more convenient time for this. So far, the committee has brainstormed some ideas of how to move forward in improving the student body's mental health. And some of our ideas and goals during brainstorming included surveying students to identify the gaps in services or needs on campus, creating and distributing a mental health related resource list, and hosting events such as collaborations with student boards, fundraising events, and organizing a mental health fair. This is not included in my report, but having heard we mentioned of a survey that the student Senate puts out each year. Since we were talking about a survey specifically for mental health, I would be curious to know if that would be something that would make more sense to do in that, or if it would be an individual thing, just because I'm not sure how much it's generalized or how much it individual. So, and
we'll have that conversation at some point. Moving on to the Undergraduate Student Symposium Committee.
We've been working with Cougar and bringing up a budget that'll just fund ourselves. That should be coming before the Senate. I know it's gonna be a lot in the meeting next week on the budget meeting, but it's coming up real fast. Also, advertising for the student success panel. We have one of the members of the student success panel here currently, as well as Clean, which everybody is pretty familiar with. I'm looking to work with USC Carroll later, just to advertise each of those students, the general student body, so that they know that what our undergraduates are doing, and they can know that they have an opportunity to ask them questions on how they got into their amazing leadership positions and report.
Moving on to the Food and Dining Affairs Committee.
After the success of the locally sourced barbecue lunch last month, Dining will be doing a surf and turf dinner at Hilltop in York on Thursday at 4:30. There will be sirloin steak and lobster mac and cheese. If any of you are not on a dining plan, I have a few guest swipes left. Please text me. I want to get rid. There will also apparently be a make your own cheesecake day. I know no information about this because they literally just posted this on their Instagram story 5 minutes ago with no date or location. My committee will be meeting in the Wade Center on Friday at 12:30, right after academic affairs. End of report.
Any questions for those speakers? Senator Ricker?
Question for Senator Wallace. Do you know what which GPA is, or what what's called the?
No, and I don't think they want me to.
Any other questions for the speakers? Seeing none, I'm gonna put something on our radar. I know for a fact the academic affairs, the symposium, I believe, committee and the food and dining affairs committee are set to expire at the end of this session if they are not renewed by Polypro. So just keep that in mind for those chairs in those positions. If you think your committee that we've made this semester should continue to be existing, let them know so that we can vote on it. Moving on to representative board reports, starting with commuter and non-traditional students.
Hey guys, how's it going? Currently, we're doing our election given cans. We have a treasurer, we have a Bangor liaison, and we are looking at trying to fill some president and vice president positions. If you guys are interested, want to take a bigger role in cans, please let me know. Report.
Moving on to the Honors College Student Activity Board.
Hello, everyone. Everybody's doing well. Just some quick updates, honors college things. SAB had our event last week on Wednesday, which went very well. We got some key pictures of some rock cannons that were turtles. for upcoming events. Hopefully, there will be a tie-dye event, but because it snowed and it's going to continue raining, I don't know. So that is completely upon the weather, because it is on the Edinburgh lawn, because I don't want to stay in the cold anymore. We're also planning our final support session for the 28th of April. That is probably going to be working at the Honors College for that. I got the date wrong last week, apologies. And we will have food, snacks, drinks, and other goodies like fidget toys and base masks, which are kind of awesome. And then for Maine annual pack out, we're in the final stretches. So I apologize if this is continuing. We are still in the March Madness bracket for raising money to get meals, which is currently happening right now. That is for donations. So if you happen to see that newsletter go out, please take a look at it, send it around for the people that you know, or if you come here right now, I can send it. We're over our expected meal goal. I don't know by how much, but we're well over it. So that's really exciting. And we received our final numbers for those who are going to be team leaders, and we are getting shirts, ordering shirts, which are fun, baby blues, tie-dye themed, and they have all the logos, every bit logo. And because I've been inspired by Representative Poulin and for the class council, there are 28 days until the May Day meal pack out.
Moving on to the Interfraternity Council.
Hi everyone, so this past weekend, we were supposed to have our IFC panhandle retreat, but that was canceled due to the big snowstorm. Our VP of Risk Management, Kit Rafford, is working on setting up a fire safety talk for chapters currently. And then just some upcoming philanthropy dates. Teak is planning on having its 24-hour live stream on April 6th. Beta Theta Pi has its 31st annual sleep out on April 12th, benefiting rape response. Alpha Sig has its Stop Hazing concert also on April 12th. Alpha Sig also has another philanthropy event with Chi Omega. It's a food drive tomorrow at the Orno IGA from 2 to 6. And then last but not least, Phi Eta is continuing their tabling for their Easter fundraiser in Union and at Hilltop.
And reports. Moving on to the Panhellenic Council.
Hi, everyone. I sent out applications for our VP of Finance position, and I've been working on setting up interviews in April 5. And as Jacob said, Kaya has their food drive with Alpha Sig tomorrow, and then AOPI has their philanthropy event on April 3rd, and more details to come with that. And if more
Thanks. Moving on to the Senior Class Council.
Hello, Senior Class Council attended the grad fair last week and we sold almost all of our t-shirts except 3, so we raised $800 in that. And we'll be doing that towards our class kids. And we also have a fundraiser Thursday, April 11th from 4 to 9 p.m. at Oriental Jading Bangalore. And there are 39 days left until graduation. So, yeah, really important.
Moving on to the Student Athletic Advisory Council.
Nothing to report.
Understood. All right. Are there any questions for the speakers? Yes, Senator Waters.
Representative Poulin, can you repeat the day of the fundraisers? I didn't get the dates. I just got the name.
Yes, April 11th from 4 to 9 p.m. Okay, the Thursday.
Okay. All right, any other questions for our speakers? Seeing none, we'll now move on to community association reports, starting with the Student Heritage Alliance Council. I have that one, so give me just a second. I forgot. Let's see here. All right. Hello, everyone. This week's SHAC meeting saw the welcome of Senator Joshua Bohm of UMSG and Dr. Matt Graham, the Maine Business School DEI Committee Chair, as special guests. Senator Bohm discussed a great general overview of the financial policies, addressing misconceptions and clarifying the confusions some SHAC members may have had about the financial policies. Dr. Matt Graham discussed potential collaboration between the MBS DEI speaker panel, where faculty/staff, students, oh wait, no, I skipped a line. Collaboration between the MBS DEI committee and SHAC on the potential conception we collectively agreed on would be a DEI speaker panel where faculty/staff, students, and local community leaders would come to present about their backgrounds, challenges, obstacles, and life experiences, etc. Dr. Matt Graham ended the discussion by saying he would contact the Dean of Business School, Jason Harkins, and stay in touch with any additional information. For club reports, we only have one from Kelsa. Due to the weather, Carnival took place on Sunday, instead of the intended Saturday date. Even with the sudden change of schedule, Carnival was a success. They fed the community and many got to take food home for the next day. From 10:30 a.m. to 9 p.m., Kelsa members and volunteers spent most of their time in the community kitchen, cooking and cleaning afterwards. And that is the end of that report.
Point of order, we skipped student athletic advisory council thing.
We did it.
My excuse me.
So sorry for stumbling through that report. Moving on to the Feminist Collective.
Hi, everyone. So due to some scheduling conflicts that have come up during the course of the semester, with some of our members, MC has had some lower attendance during our, weekly meetings, while our events have maintained, pretty high attendance. We are hoping to attain greater attendance for our regularly scheduled meetings in the future. Because of this, I have created a when to meet form, to discover a better time for our members. With the current results of the poll, MC will be meeting on Wednesday from 4 to 5 p.m. And we will be encouraging folks to attend even if they are unable to come for the entirety of the hour. If anyone is interested in attending these meetings and would like to respond to the when to meet form, feel free to either speak to me in person or contact me via email.
Moving on to Wildfire.
Hi, everyone. Happy Pride Week, first of all. Woo. Oh, yeah. And if you haven't attended any events, whether you are a member of the LGBT+ community or just an ally, I encourage you to. There's some fun stuff happening throughout the week, ending with finally, after all semester, the drag show is this Saturday. Would wildly recommend all of you to attend. It is a blast every year. Everyone I've talked to who has gone has had a good time. It's at 7 p.m. at the CCA, hosted by Carrie One, and it's just generally I would recommend going. It's great. I know I'm biased, but otherwise, our annual formal is coming up on April 13th from 7 to 10 p.m. in the Bangor room. Dean's still pending. I know what it's probably going to be, but the poll is still open until Friday, so I cannot share that information. Otherwise, that's it. End of report.
Moving on to the International Student Association.
Evening, guys. For whatever reason, my computer decides to just not work and I lost my report, so forgive my video off to be half what I said. Yeah, so for this upcoming meeting, we're pairing with the Nepali Student Association. We're doing a country profile with some food and some like activities and something like that. So if you're able to come, again, 4 p.m. in the North Pod, it's gonna be a lot of fun. It's gonna be very good food. Probably has a bit of a kick to it, so it's fair warning. Springfest is still coming along. Still haven't like gotten a date on it, but like still getting the plans together. So we really bring like much more energy and much more activities going on for this year. And I say elections are also gonna be coming up this coming April, not this, excuse me. The upcoming April.
Okay, all right. Do we have any questions for our speakers? Seeing none, and if it's the pleasure of the Senate, we will now be entering a 5-minute recess, coming back at 7:20. I call this meeting back to order. I am now looking for approval of the consent agenda. Senator Kemper. If that's the pleasure of the Senate, that's adopted. We will now move into new business, starting with 45S EBC 45, an act allocating funds to UMSG in the full amount of $2,208. Do we have a speaker?
Yes.
Great.
That is I. All right, so similar to a request that we did earlier this academic year, this is an act to allocate funds to ourselves in order to purchase the necessary equipment for esports arena upgrades. So I spoke again with Brendan Traxel or am I pronouncing his last name in the in the Center for Student Involvement regarding necessary upgrades for the esports arena after we signed a new memorandum of understanding. So the student government has a responsibility to upkeep the equipment in the esports arena. So this request is simply to keep that responsibility or, abide by that responsibility. So in order, we're asking for 3 PS5 controllers, which have succumbed to stick drift. If there are any gamers in the room, then know about stick drift. It's basically like the joysticks on a gaming controller. When they get like dirty and they get like, there's like gunk in them, the sensors stop working. So like if you're playing, your like character will move when you're not like moving the character, or like your field of view might move. It's like really annoying, makes it really hard to use a controller. So these controllers have been in use for over 3 years. That's actually pretty good. So we're appropriating money to get 3 new PS5 controllers, 2 PS5 charging stations so that we can charge those controllers, 2 Switch controllers, because I was wrong in EBC. I said that those also had stick drift. These don't. It's actually the bumpers on the controllers are broken. So this is 2 sets of Switch controllers to replace the ones with broken bumpers, and the Switch controller dock. Not like a handheld controller. These are like specifically the Joy-Cons, and then the dock. And then whoever designed the original esports arena back in 2021 designed the room to have 16 PCs, all of which had Bluetooth connected keyboards, which anyone that knows anything about gaming or like Bluetooth connection, that's a lot of very similar Bluetooth connection, all kind of like in one room, which makes the Bluetooth connectivity in there like kind of wonky when you have like 16 of the same exact device. So surprised it's kind of lasted this long in this current system. Also, with different students using these devices so often, the actual like USB ports, the USB plugs you have to plug into the computer in order to set up the Bluetooth connectivity with the keyboards. Some of them have been lost in like translation, which we actually know all too well in the student gov offices. Some of the keyboards that we have for our employees have been like moved around, like people have moved them around and lost them. So hopefully, well, this request is to appropriate for 16 wired keyboards. I want to find something to do with the remaining working, the ones that are in good order, those wireless keyboards, to like find them to a new home, donate them somewhere good to like remove e-waste, because that's bad for the environment. And we have 16 pretty good working ones, so finding a good place for them is good. But happy to answer any questions about that. Also, there's a question in EBC about the food policy in the esports arena. And Brendan told me that food is only allowed on the center table and that drinks are not allowed at the specific like gaming stations. They have to be like kept on the floor or somewhere else when you go into the esports arena.
Okay, all right, Senator Ricker.
I don't know anything about this, but like, are these like normal prices for the various materials or anything else?
These are not like necessarily discounted, but I think that some of the keyboards are just like comparable to what the old keyboards were, but like the wired version. So this isn't like an upgrade. These aren't like exorbitant charges, but these aren't necessarily like discounted. Like these aren't Black Friday deals.
VP Chatham.
In your conversations with CSI and people that are running this every day, have you gotten kind of like reports on like usage reports? And if not, like specific numbers, do you know if like, is the room empty a lot or is it being used a lot, that kind of thing?
I do have specific usage numbers. I have to find those in my email. Esports usage has gone down in the last 12 months. Like, some months have been higher than others. It's not just like a linear downward trend. That'd be depressing. But overall, I think esports arena usage has gone down. We're trying to bring it back though, but this is a really recent effort. We also put up QR codes, thanks to Director Carroll for like designing these like little QR code tags that go above each of the monitors. We designed piece tags that link to a survey where you can provide your feedback on the esports arena. So that hopefully we can not only like make sure we have hours that work for students when they want to come in, that we can get that usage up. But also, this request is just for like, I think bare bones of what the esports arena needs and what our obligation is. But in the future, if we wanted to like buy a new console, kind of like questions in there, ask what the students would want to see so that we can increase that usage. But if you want specific usage numbers, I can put those in this space as soon as I can find.
Any other, Senator, Brown, sorry.
Apologies, this was asked already, but what are the most popular devices in the esports arena?
That's what this survey tries to address. I don't actually know, we don't have data on that, so that's why I asked that in the survey. So as soon as I know, I'll get back to everyone.
Any other questions for the speaker? Going once, going twice. What is the committee's recommendation?
700 ought to pass technically as amended because we added a stipulation, but the dollar amount didn't change.
Senator Martel?
I'm moving to accept the committee's recommendation.
If that's the pleasure of the Senate, that's adopted. We will now move into a period for discussion. Senator Waters.
What was the stipulation that ABC added?
It's on the resolution, and it says President Award must investigate using old materials before purchasing new ones, because BBC, so a member of BBC pointed out that sometimes you can like return, I know nothing about computers, return like the controller, thank you, to like, and the company will clean them for you, so we to avoid stick drift. So investigating that before we just like buy new ones. And then President Willard must also inquire about the food policy in the esports arena when it's fulfilled. And then survey the Senate about what to do with the old keyboards when they're returned, I guess.
Thank you. Yeah.
Any other points for discussion? President Ward.
Also for the vote, right, I abstained. So.
Oh, sorry.
6-0.
Any other points for discussion? Seeing none, points for debate. Senator Thompson.
I think when considering the usage going down, if that's something in your mind, also consider last year, the esports arena closed at like 11, we were closed at 8 p.m. A lot of students like the game later in the day, and I know myself, I have gone way less just because of that hour change, so keeping that in mind. It's not necessarily that people aren't using this, it's the availability shifted.
VP Chapman.
I also just want to say that I really think that this should pass. I think that the esports arena is something really important for us to support. For the sole reason that the demographic and population of students who end up using the esports arena the most, and this is just a generalization, but those tend to be the students that are really hard to reach for other organizations, other events on campus. There's students who we tend to really struggle to get involved on campus. And I think that this providing this service is a really great way to get those groups of demographic students like who aren't generally involved in events and activities to be a part of the community and more engaged with what we have going on. Even though we don't have an esports team there, I still think it's something that we should absolutely be supporting.
VP Over.
To add on to both those points, if you're concerned about the usage going down, we also used to have an esports team. This is something that President Delorge and I are looking into currently. About restarting and kind of gauging interest for that. I think that was a lot of the usage as well, was they had to meet for practices and things like that. And they were doing a lot of events in that way, which was generating more and more interest. It's not been a substantial decline per se, but if that was something that was bothering you, we are looking to bring that back. They just kind of all graduated and it fell out during COVID and all of that, but we would like to reestablish.
Perfect. Any VP Chaplin?
One of the things I don't think was mentioned, or President George might have, but we're not the only ones like paying for this too. CSI provides a major chunk of running the esports. They have a paid employee in there for all the hours that's open. So we're not like, we're doing this collaboratively too. I want you guys to also recognize the role that CSI is playing and helping us from this.
Any further points for debate? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? All those abstaining? Seeing a clear majority in the affirmative, that passes. We'll now move on to 45 SQL 48, an act to ensure equity in student legal representation. Do we have a speaker?
Yeah. It is also high. Raleigh, do you think we could screen share this resolution? Is that possible?
Yeah.
This one's really text heavy. I can start reading it.
Was it sent? Oh, it must be in the emails. Okay.
Yeah, it's labeled in Jeff's email as 45SENC48, but it's actually a policy and procedure resolution.
Okay.
So this is an act to ensure equity in student legal representation. So a while ago, I came to the Senate and talked to you about some legal policy conflict that we've had. And I guess for anyone that's new, I'll also like preface. Sean, as a licensed attorney that we employ in order to give legal advice, free legal advice and low cost representation to students here at the University of Maine. He is, you know, a lawyer in the legal profession, and the legal profession works such that.
That was great. It's easy.
That's correct. You were on the right one.
I freaked out. I freaked out. That's not bad. I thought we were just.
45SEXC48. It's the middle left. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you were on the right. That's correct. Okay, thank you. So, before I like get into the like reading of this, I just want to kind of give that preface. So, as an attorney, Sean can only represent one person on one side of a case. So he represents, if student A comes to Sean and says, I'd like to work with you on a particular case. If Sean picks on that case, he cannot represent party B, or in this case, student B. So student government, given that we only have one attorney, we kind of create this system. This is my view. We create this system where if student B comes to Sean and he's already helping student A, they aren't able to have access to the same free legal advice and low cost representation that student A has just because they got to him first. So this kind of seeks to address that, hence the title, Ensure Equity in Student Legal Representation. So the first whereas statement basically just gets at student activity fee paying undergrads at UMaine can utilize this for free legal advice for any undergraduate student and subsidized representation in court for some undergraduate students. Whereas there's only one attorney for student government, they're conflicted out. Whereas the current system has been a first come, first served system determining which student can receive legal advice and representation. Whereas it is the intention of student government to maintain access to legal assistance to students who request it. Whereas at the request of the student and the discretion of the student government attorney, some students receive highly discounted or in some cases free representation in court. Occasionally, these cases are directly adverse to the student who did not first request legal assistance. So again, that just outlines what I've kind of already talked about. Whereas it is the goal of student government to encourage the adversarial process and maximize legal representation of students. Whereas student activity fee funding cannot be used to provide legal representation against the University of Maine. That's in our contract with the university. Whereas be it resolved that UMSG Inc. shall, at the Senate's yearly discretion, set aside funds to pay for legal assistance in cases of student legal conflict. So this is kind of the idea that I came to you about a while ago, but resolved that this amount be set aside as a reserve during the yearly budget meeting. Resolved that this amount be based on the amount reasonably anticipated to be necessary to provide students who would otherwise be eligible for legal assistance with 1 hour of free advice from a third party. So again, there's a separation here between legal advice, which if someone is going to Sean, is free, and legal consultation, which if someone is going to Sean, is at a reduced cost. Resolved that a further portion of funding be allocated in the same manner to provide free or reduced cost representation by a local third-party attorney in matters where legal representation by the student government attorney is representing an opposing student. Resolve that this assistance be provided only when a student has requested legal assistance from the student government attorney and has been informed of the conflict or has been referred directly to the program by the University of Maine and has requested assistance, at which time the student shall be informed of the availability of the funding and shall be given the funding at the completion of any necessary forms, so long as a conflict does not exist in the student government providing said funding. Almost done, but this is really important. That resolved that this assistance shall be provided until funding set aside by student government should have been expended, at which time student government may consider additional funding, but shall not be required to provide said. Lastly, resolve that all employees, directors, and agents of student government shall preserve the anonymity of the requesting student to the extent possible, and shall not inquire as to the nature of the legal matter in question, except to the extent necessary to determine if a conflict exists and whether the student would otherwise be eligible for legal assistance. So basically, this sets aside, or this encourages the Senate to, at a yearly basis, set aside money in the annual budget for legal advice and for legal representation that the student activity fees already entitle them to. And the last few lines are basically saying that like the anonymity of the conflicted out student shall be preserved, and that the Senate really shouldn't be allowed to know that because that's pretty confidential information. If I were, you know, not me and I was the conflicted out student, I really wouldn't want a group of all of you knowing the nature of my case and who I am and all of that. That's kind of what that addresses. Again, it leaves up to the discretion of the Senate how much money that is every year, but I think this is a really good first step in starting to address the conflict in the legal policy that we've created, basically where we've created a system where only one student can access legal advice and representation from an office. Happy to answer any questions.
Do we have questions for President Delors? Senator Ricker.
I'm not sure if you can answer kind of this, but is this a common enough occurrence that's worth having a set aside thing in the annual budget as opposed to taking it as they come in terms of individual cases that?
Yep, great question. So, really, there is one particular instance that Advisor Sidell going on were made aware about earlier this academic year. I can't get into the specifics of this, but a particular student was affected by this policy, and I heard from members of people close to them that this policy was negatively impacting them. And so I would like to, before the end of the year, have this policy so that we are kind of fixing this hole in our system. So that was one particular instance where I think this did pose a really significant problem. But Sean takes a lot of different cases and provides legal advice in a lot of different kinds of cases, as Senator Rocky has talked about in a lot of the paper reports and in his verbal reports that he's given in Senate over the last few weeks where we see the usage. I think Sean does take student v. student cases fairly frequently. And he also takes on cases that he might not know are a student v. student case. Like if, for instance, Senator Ricker, if you are renting from a particular landlord, you're trying to get out of your lease, and there are other students that are on your lease. If I'm your roommate, I might be affected. And that case that was originally not necessarily a student v. student case might turn into a you versus me kind of case. So this does happen fairly frequently, and that's why I think it's where it could happen frequently. And in instances where the second party that's conflicted out doesn't have the money to go, you know, pay for their own attorney in Bangor, I think that it's important that we set up this system. I also forgot to note in my opening that Sean has contacted local Bangor attorneys and gotten a deal, kind of like not a deal, wrong word. He's gotten some confirmation that this would be possible with certain attorneys in the Bangor area, that we could get reduced price representation and advice from particular attorneys. So that this is possible because it could very well happen even this semester next year. Yeah.
Vice President Allen.
In the third to last resolved statement, what is meant by any necessary forms? Have those forms been created and what do they entail?
Those forms haven't been created. We've talked again, regarding anonymity of the particular conflicted out student. We might have to have that student's lawyer or law firm that is representing them, provide, documentation that they are, and Sean would be able to speak to the specifics of this, but basically, if student government set up this fund, we would be paying the lawyer or the law firm directly. We would not be paying the student. We wouldn't be paying a particular middleman. So if there were any financial paperwork information that would have to be processed and exchanged in this process, I think that's kind of what that's for. I don't know if the university has anything, that also might be what that's for. But I think Sean put that in there to like note that to the extent possible, we're gonna preserve their anonymity, but there might be particular forms that we need them to fill out.
Any other questions for President Delores? Vice President Chaplin?
If this passes tonight, which I hope it does, will it be in the annual budget next week?
No, I've discussed that with Vice President An, who I think can answer questions about like the budget timeline this semester. But maybe the Senate could put together some sort of financial request to establish this right now for the end of the fiscal year. Not right now, but like next meeting or something. And then maybe at the beginning of the year next year, the Senate could appropriate money for that academic year. And then later, next annual budget, it could start in that annual budget, but unfortunately, I think it's too late for this annual.
Vice President Allen?
Is where I guess is this resolution going? And I asked that in the context of, when like I've put stuff in the annual budget before. There usually is like a follow-up policy that directly amends the financial policies, so this amending the financial policies?
Not yet.
Okay.
So if that's somewhere we need to go, I think that's like important that we like carve out a space for it. But really, this is just kind of like bringing this to you as like, here's the issue, here's the solution to it. And then we'll kind of iron out like the final details and like amending other specific documents like afterwards. We also need to probably later down the road consider like students like pay Sean anywhere from like 65, I think, to like $200 for representation in court. But if you heard what I said, where like we wouldn't be charging student B any money for their representation, we'd actually be paying for it. The student B who's conflicted out is actually at a financial advantage in this policy where they don't have to pay anything. So student A might be paying Sean $200 to represent them, but student B doesn't have to pay anybody in this particular resolution. So if someone wanted to entertain an amendment to fix that, I have the wording for it. Otherwise, that could be entertained in a future motion or a future resolution, because I see like one more resolution happening later this semester about potential financial policies or otherwise.
Any further questions? Senator Ricker?
Just a clarifying kind of question about this in the budget. Would this be underlying in the budget? I mean, it's kind of just to consult with you on anonymity of the person who would be taking money from that part of the annual budget.
No, so if this was part of the annual budget, it would be a fund of money, just like my exact fund is a fund of money that we allocate in the annual budget every year. If that fund isn't used and isn't tapped into anonymously, it would just get returned to unallocated or like rolled over into the next year, how all of our money kind of normally. But the Senate, just like how we use particular line items in our budget, the Senate isn't made aware every single time we tap into every single line item in our budget. So that would be the case for this too. So if someone tapped into this, you all wouldn't be made aware at the following meeting necessarily.
Senator Rocky?
Could you please read the wording of the possible amendment?
Yeah. Resolve that the amount of the allocation to the third-party attorney shall be reduced by the amount reasonably anticipated to be paid to the UMSG attorney by the student that UMSG attorney is representing, as set by the UMSG attorney at the time of hire.
Great. Any further questions for the speaker, Vice President Allen?
So just to clarify, like when we're talking about hypothetically, if this is passed, it doesn't technically amend the financial policy, so it doesn't like require anything to be in the annual budget next year. Like if it passes tonight without another. Okay.
No.
Senator Bone?
This is a question for Allen. Do you think that this would be under a special allocation or would it be under a line item in Sean's budget?
That's a really good question. I think that it would make more sense to fall under Sean's budget because he would be dealing with it most directly and.
I think we'd have to talk about that with Sean. Just because like, I don't know if he is representing party one and this is like a fund for party two. If there's like any sort of like weirdness about putting money set aside for a student he wouldn't be representing in his fund. I haven't talked with him about that yet, so I'm not sure.
Any further questions? Seeing none, what is the committee's recommendation?
5-0 abstinence.
Senator Martone?
I move to accept the committee's recommendation.
Second.
If that's the pleasure of the Senate, that's adopted. We'll now move into a period for discussion. Seeing none, debate. Senator Martone?
I'm actually really astonished that for how long we've had legal representation that this issue has not happened before. And I'm really happy to see this problem being solved. It was brought up earlier.
Senator Kemper?
I move to amend the resolution to include the amendment that was stated by the speaker, please.
Second. Will the speaker just do it again for due diligence sake?
Yep. Resolved that the amount of the allocation to the third-party attorney shall be reduced by the amount reasonably anticipated to be paid to the UMSG attorney by the student, the UMSG attorney is representing as set by the UMSG attorney at the time of law.
Perfect, and that was seconded. All right, if that's pleasure of the Senate, that's adopted. We'll now move into a period for discussion on the amendment. Senator Rocky?
When I discussed this amendment with Sean today, he said it would be something, or it is something that he'd be very open, like amenable to, so.
Any further discussion? Vice President Chaplin?
Without this amendment, the resolution is not a resolution for increasing equity and actually creates more inequities in the system.
Any further discussion? Debate? Vice President Chaplin?
We should pass the amendment, so it actually is an increasing equity in legal representation.
Any further points of debate? Seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment? All those opposed? All those abstaining? Seeing a clear majority in the affirmative, that's adopted. All right, we will now be considering the resolution as amended, and we'll be back into debate. Senator Rocky.
As it stands, there are students who do not receive legal representation / advice that they're entitled to by the student activity fee. So I think it's very important that this passes.
Any further points for debate? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? All those abstaining? Seeing a clear majority in the affirmative, that passes. I'm gonna sit for the rest of the meeting. We will now be entering executive session. So all non official members of UMSG may exit now. Thank you for coming.